Morning, everybody. I have a message for you from Silicon Valley that I'm going to share with you in the next few minutes of discussion. And I am assuming that all of you in Malaysia are in some way or the other interested in the development of the startup ecosystem. And I'm sure you all look at Silicon Valley and think, wow, they have it so good, and you know, they have such a great seed funding ecosystem, and you know, things are so easy. Well, I have news for you. 99% of startups that go out to seek funding get rejected. This is a statistic from Silicon Valley. If you follow my blog, you probably know that we do this seed capital series of interviews, and we interview investor after investor, and we ask them for their statistics on how many startups do they look at during a year and how many do they invest in. And over again we hear roughly the same statistic. Somebody like Mike Maples, who's a super angel in Silicon Valley, gets 7,000 deals a year, and he invests in something like 12 to 15. So this is a really scary statistic, and it's the reality. So for those of you who are thinking about building an ecosystem in these other geographies, whether it's Malaysia or Singapore or Indonesia, I assume you are thinking about emulating Silicon Valley and you're looking at other examples and so on and so forth. One thing, please remember not to do is to pin your success entirely on funding as a success metric for entrepreneurs. So do not focus on making it super important or super central for your entrepreneurs to find funding, because I think that is going to be a very difficult metric to live up to. Instead, try to focus on business fundamentals. And by business fundamentals, what I mean are customers, revenues, and profit. You know, as long as an entrepreneur is successful in building a business that has real customers, real revenues, and real profit, funding should be optional. So, you know, the reason I bring it up is I know that a lot of you are thinking about how to, you know, incubate startups, and you're running incubators, and we work with a number of incubators around the world. And one thing that bothers me a great deal is that the success metric that you've set for yourself as incubators is when your companies get funded, that's what you consider success. Well, that's not the right success metric, and I'm trying to caution you that the right success metric for entrepreneurship should be customers, revenue, and profit, and these are basically the business fundamentals. Now, given that funding is such a low probability game, what options do entrepreneurs have in getting their businesses off the ground? There are a few options, right? There are, you know, I would say 4 or 5 varieties of options. The first option is you can play this low probability gamble of getting funded, and some of you will play, and it's okay. But my point is, don't get discouraged if that doesn't come through, because inherently you're playing a very low probability game for a variety of reasons, and I will go into some of the reasons later on in the presentation. The second option is that you can crib, you can bitch, you can complain, you can say that, oh, we didn't get funding, there is no funding ecosystem here, investors don't fund early stage startups. Well, that doesn't help anybody either, and it doesn't help you. It is not a practical solution to sit and complain. Another option is you can, wait. You can suck your thumb and you can wait for the ecosystem to get better. That is also not a practical option. If you're a real entrepreneur, you're going to have to remove obstacles on your way. and you will need to figure out a way to get forward, get moving, get going with your vision. So the real option in that case is bootstrapping. And I say that that is the best option, and this is an option that you need to really get your arms around. Investors love to come to the rescue of victory. They would love to fund you if you meet their criteria. And what are their criteria? What are the criteria for investors, especially for venture capitalists? They're looking for very large market opportunities. We'll talk about that in a bit. But these days, as I talk to people in Silicon Valley, investors are looking for validated business models. They are no longer funding concepts. They're not interested in funding, nebulous ideas. They want to see validated business models. They want to see paying customers. And they want to see reasonably complete teams. The one difference, yes, of course, in Silicon Valley, we have more angels. So the angels do some amount of funding that is, against somewhat less mature business ideas. But even then, the numbers that I was giving you, the probabilities that I was giving you are actually probabilities that apply to angels as well. So let's say if the probability of getting financed by angels is small, the probability of getting financed by VCs is small, what do? How do you get your project to be sufficiently mature so that you can get to a validated business model, you can get to paying customers, you can get to revenues? These are the goals upon which you need to execute, or towards which you need to execute. So the $1 million question is, how do you get there? And my answer to that is you need to figure out ways of creative bootstrapping. So one of my favorite ways of creative bootstrapping is services funding products. This is a classical story. This is a strategy that lots of companies have used. Oracle was a service company originally. Oracle, Larry Ellison was going in and doing database optimization for other people. And as he started getting close to the database problem, he started seeing much faster, much better ways of doing things. And he just, at some point, he stopped and he says, oh, okay, I can build a product. And, I know what the customer's problems are. I know how to solve this problem. Well, I can build a product. That's how he even understood what problem to solve. He even came up with what problem to solve. So services funding products, I'll show you a bunch of case studies and take you through some examples to give you more, mechanics of it, but it is something that you should consider. Another good bootstrapping strategy these days is open source. There are a number of entrepreneurs who've managed to do open source go-to-market strategies and do it well. A third one is something that I want to bring to your attention because I've been seeing some companies from the East Asian geographies, Australia, Malaysia, Indonesia, and I've had some conversations with these entrepreneurs at my 1 million by 1 million roundtables, and I've talked to them about selling on the phone and using the web. So Sales 2.0 or teleweb sales is a mechanism, I guess, of bootstrapping that I would like you to understand. Another one is doing smart channel deals. Building channels of your own is very, very expensive. But if you can work with other people who have channels to customers, that may be another, relatively inexpensive way of going to market. So we need to look at options and opportunities for smart channel deals. And then the other suite of techniques, go-to-market techniques that have become popular and become viable over the last decade are search engine optimization, pay-per-click advertising, affiliate marketing, guerrilla PR, and generating lots of word of mouth by doing these things, which don't cost as much money. Regular advertising is very, very expensive. But if you're doing search engine optimization, it's largely an organic way to capture natural search traffic. This is not that expensive. So these are techniques of bootstrapping that entrepreneurs around the world are using very effectively. And believe me, entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley are using these techniques very, very, very effectively. So let's go back and revisit some case studies, or visit some case studies that are that deal with each of these topics in a bit more depth. Bootstrapping using services is something that I would really like you to understand, and I'm going to give you 4 case studies. Number 1 is the Finisar case studies. By the way, you would find all these case studies on my blog. The Finisar case study, bootstrapping to billions, I call it. This is a classic case study where an optical component company was built by Frank Levinson and Jerry Rawls by using contract services basically to generate the early money, early cash. But also this the entrepreneurs got really close to the customers to understand their problems, and that's how they figured out what problem to solve and what business to build. Cryptography research is a case study of a company that has tremendous domain expertise in cryptography. This is a company that still today, it's close to $45 million a year in revenue or more. This is a company that has not raised any money at all, no outside money. What they do is they go and do cryptography related research and development services, and they get paid to do that. And in many cases, they maintain IP. In the innovation they maintain IT ownership. The way they negotiate their contracts, they get to maintain the IP ownership. So again, another case study that you may want to look at. IDL. This is a system integration services company that does e-commerce system integration. And by doing that, they learned a lot about e-commerce, and today they've come up with the top Force.com, this is Salesforce.com's platform, Force.com application for doing e-commerce in the cloud. And Salesforce.com is sending them lots of leads. So again, they have managed to use services to come up with a product. Nimsoft is an interesting case study also, which started as a VAR, a value-added reseller of another company's products. And it was so successful that eventually it went and bought the company whose products it was reselling and then built from there on. $350 million exit, by the way, Nimsoft. So just to give you flavors of what other people are doing and what other people are doing successfully. And see if you can apply this principle